Don't you just hate waking up on a strange planet, being all alone, with precious few memories and a gun for an arm? What? That doesn't happen to you? Oh, okay, yeah, it doesn't happen to me either. But it did happen to our heroine in Ghost Song, so let's see if it's worth playing. Ghost Song started its life, like most indie games do, on Kickstarter. It raised $54,000 of its initial $15,000 funding goal, which is an amazing achievement. The funding goal was hit all the way back in 2013, and it took 9 years of further development before it came out in 2022. To say that there were problems with the development is a bit of an understatement. Matt White, the creator and developer of the game, was practically doing everything himself, and while he thought he was nearly done with the game, he ran into a lot of coding and stability problems as he built his game. So in 2018, 5 years after the funding, he announced that he had to switch engines because the one he was using just wasn't stable enough and he didn't want to put out an inferior product. This is something no creator wants to do because it is painful for everyone involved, him and the backers. This ended up creating a huge delay in the product, but it did help create the game as it is today, and personally I think it looks better than when it started. It's just so wild going through a game's Kickstarter and seeing the early concepts and what the game became. Does anyone else do this kind of stuff? Does anybody else check out Kickstarter pages after a game has come out? Yeah, no, just me? Oh, alright then. So in 2022, Ghost Song released for all major consoles and PC, and I played the PS5 version, though I'm pretty sure it's the same across every single release. Ghost Song is a Metroidvania style game with very heavy influence from the Metroid style of things. You play as a dead suit that wakes up in the middle of nowhere next to a crashed ship. You are isolated, and from here, you must explore the moon you're on. Eventually, you do find some other people that are also on this moon, and some of them do want your help and others just want to take your life. But the ones that do need help did crash here as well, and they need some parts if they want to repair their ship and escape, so you offered to do so. Even though there's quite a few characters, most of the game, you are alone. After the initial meeting at the crash ship, the game really becomes quite open where you can tackle the parts in many different orders, and I personally love that. You're always looking for ways to find those ship parts, and aside from their icons being on the map, you are given no further help than just go maybe start with the green one, I guess? There are plenty of upgrades to find in the world as well, like all different types of weapons that do different things and health tanks. There are even upgrades to your suit, but you can only equip a certain number of them depending on what level you are. One such example is you can equip one that increases your melee attack, but then you take more damage. The whole game plays very similar to a Metroid game, especially Super Metroid, with the movement, the weapons, and even the just general feeling of the game. That's not a knock against it because it honestly feels great to play, it looks nice, and the controls are tight. The only real gripe I had with the controls is when you eventually get the wall jump. Sometimes when you try and dash directly after jumping from the wall, it goes in the wrong direction, even though I was holding the direction that I wanted to go. And sometimes doing this would make me fall all the way down and I'd have to start climbing the wall again. So it's pretty annoying. The only real change to the Metroid formula comes from your gun because it can overheat as you fire. When it does overheat, your shots come out much slower and your DPS dips dramatically. But you can also use that arm to hit people and it gets stronger when it's overheated, because if you're whacking somebody in the face with a really red hot gun, it's going to deal more damage than just a plain old cold one. This is a nice little risk versus reward, and hitting people with your overheated arm cools it down faster as well. There's also plenty of different melee weapons to find, like a spear for added reach or a circle spinny thing of doom, the pinwheel. Oh my god, that was the best one by far. Aside from melee weapons, you also have different kinds of guns as well, and I like that they all use the same ammo bar, the one that's located under your health, so you don't need to stock up and grind for anything in particular. The best part about it is that it also regenerates, so give it enough time and then you can use all of your weapons again. You also have a stamina bar, which is used for running. Also, if you dash too often, it'll drain it, and your melee attacks are tied to it too. So you can't go insane with all of these things, but honestly, I barely looked at the stamina bar throughout the entire game. It wasn't really an issue. The overall gameplay experience was pretty great. Each area has its own feel and different enemies. The art style is just phenomenal. I loved it. Like, look at this six-fingered woods. It's so strange, and I don't think I've ever seen something as creepy and weird in a game before. The overall map is good and makes sense. It has lots of connections and different pathways, which I'd want in a Metroidvania, and the PS5 version even comes with a map, which helped out a ton, trust me. The game itself can be pretty challenging, and it has a few Souls-like elements thrown in. One thing is that you lose all of your nanogel, which is the currency to level up and buy stuff in the game, upon death. You also lose a part of your max health before you get booted back to the last save point that you used. This changes a little bit after you pick up a ship part, because that is the new save point, so you can't just die and go to the nearest one. No, if you die again, you go back to the exact spot where you picked it up, and you have to run all the way back to the crash site in order to deliver it. The whole point of these Souls elements is to make your run back to collect your stuff that much harder, and if you died to a boss, then they can defeat you even faster, making them more challenging as well. Even towards the end of the game, I never truly felt safe, so it keeps up that aura of danger throughout the entire runtime. But exploring the game didn't give me as much of a hard time as the bosses did. Now first, let me say they all looked fantastic, and most of them had some kind of story attached to them, but gosh golly, they're not that fun to actually fight. The majority of them have very simple moves and even more simple tells, and they would hit so goddamn hard that even a few mistakes would cost you your life. They are also huge bullet sponges and take so ridiculously long to kill, adding to the stress of losing, because if you do, you have to do this entire fight again. Few of them I would say were actually challenging based on their actions and mechanics, because most were only challenging because if you made like 3 mistakes you would just die. That's not challenge, that's just silliness. Back to some positives. I did like that you could encounter a few bosses just kind of randomly in the field. That's pretty cool, so you wouldn't have the same encounter twice. Also, nearly every single boss in this game can be skipped if you want to speedrun. I think only one fight is mandatory, and that's wild. On my first playthrough, I made sure to fight everyone, and then my speedrun, I only fought one. It was such a different experience. But these bosses are not the highlight of the game for me. In fact, I had more joy in exploring, and the most important part, getting to know the characters. That's the part that really shines for me here. The characterization of Deadsuit and all of the people that she meets. They all have their own stories, wants and needs, and it is up to you to follow their stories. Now, I had to use a guide for this because the stories are so very easy to miss, which is a shame because they're the biggest draw for me. Take Saymond, for example, this mysterious scientist that tells you all about the world and the strange things that are going on. He is scattered all around in many different places, and as you return ship parts, he changes locations. But if you don't know where he is or just miss him, then you don't get to hear any of those fun stories. Even the people in the crash site get new story elements every time you drop off a ship part, but if you don't talk to them, then you don't advance those parts of the story. Now, I fully get why they did this. It's to promote exploration of the world and some replayability and stuff, but honestly, putting so many things behind these barriers and then not letting people know about it or experience it is just a shame. Like I keep reiterating, it's my favorite part about this game, and it makes me sad to think that some people just may have missed it all because it's just so sparse, complex, and unintuitive to find some of these things. All of this game is also voice acted as well, and the people do a phenomenal job here. Each character was distinct, but the best amongst them was definitely the Deadsuit. Her delivery was just amazing. She knocked it out of the park. From the sense of sadness when thinking about heavy topics, to a sense of wonder like seeing glowing butterflies in a cave. She even talks to herself on occasion or to other dead robots. She's just fantastic. Now, aside from the voice acting, I do want to talk about the music, and it is chef's kiss. That soundtrack has so many fun tunes like Construct, Big Bot, and my favorite, Sleet. You should go give it a listen, it's honestly pretty great. Lastly, the road to platinum wasn't too crazy, but the two things to remember here are the character quest lines, as you need to find everybody and talk to everybody in specific places at specific times in order to continue their story, which can be annoying. Follow a guide. Samid is definitely the hardest for this because he has so many different places and you need to find him, I think, 7 times before the trophy pops, so I think there's like 9 or 10 times that you can talk to him, so you can only miss a few. The other thing to note is that you'll be doing a separate run for the no deaths and speedrun unless you don't die in the main game, in which you're insane, then it's just a separate run for the speedrun. Pro tip for the speedrun, all you need to beat the game is the dash and the wall jump, so get those first and you're good to beat the game. In my opinion, Ghost Song is worth it, as it was such a fun Metroidvania. While the gameplay does not break any new grounds, it is a solid experience. The world is fun to explore, but it can feel empty at times. This sort of reinforces that loneliness feeling it's going for though, so it isn't the worst experience. The bosses definitely could be better, but the characters make up for them so long as you get a chance to talk to them. So, tell me what you thought about Ghost Song. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Who was your favorite character and why? I might be a little boring here, but I think the Dead Suit is the best. She was just captivating from start to finish, especially when more of her personality started to come through as she's meeting different characters and talking to herself. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!